Ladies and gentlemen, I am Yusrul. It is the 11th of April, this is the Tribble Timewarp, and we've gone green. The Legacy of Romulus expansion pack has at least had its loading screen added onto the servers. Now, we'll begin with the login and character select screens, and as you can see, there are a few little issues. Firstly, Cations kind of don't exist. Meet Captain MT Suit. Yes, small problem. The glow behind the characters still looks a little bodged in, as you can see, and it's red regardless of faction. There's also a problem with ship size and positioning, depending on some of the classes of vessel, and Yusrul, despite running a Vesta, for some reason the game picked his shuttlecraft behind it. Anyhow, let's take a quick look at character creation. This has had a complete revamp. As you can see, Romulan and Klingons are temporarily disabled. Did not stop a certain dev from saying, "Hey guys, I'm flying around as a Romulan," and he wonders why people then decide to mess with his Zen. But moving on, as you can see, you now get a lot more information on the one screen. It's all been streamlined and refined and improved. Although I have to note that it would be nice to have a scroll bar for the class powers so you could see the higher level captain abilities at all. And who thought this bonus was good for a Ferengi? 20% energy and latinum discount. Oh wow. That is, ha 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 ha. Yeah, that's interesting. Mind you, the pack lids aren't too shabby either, dumb luck. It almost makes the Tribble powers seem fairly minor. Class selection is now also on the same screen, so it's essentially a little bit easier to handle, and you can get to the background and appearance tabs, including uniform overviews, simply by hitting the tabs at the bottom of the screen. Now there's an interesting little tidbit here. As well as the standard Federation uniforms, you can see they left us the Romulan uniform. We now know the Romulan starting world, Virinat. So, we'll have to see what other tidbits the devs leave us to find during these videos. And of course you get the next generation uniform as well. Handily, the height bar does allow you to work in both Imperial and Metric. And I have no idea why it picked a random zoom when it yoinked us back to Yusrul, but hey, the Lydia is still there. I think that's a Cation-specific bug. At least I hope it is. Transporter effect is still around. Apparently I'm beaming off the red glowing thingy. And here we are on Earth Space Dock. So, what else has changed? Well, obviously the UI is now based very heavily on the LCARS systems that we saw in Next Gen onwards, but I'll come back to that and cover it in more detail later on, probably in another video. The character interface has had a tweak. This is now a 3D model rather than a paper doll, and okay, it's a nice cosmetic tweak. I did hit this little problem though, where enabling the Mako armor for the first time only caused the paper doll to lock. Curiously, enabling weapons and kit visuals doesn't seem to be functional as yet. As you can see, despite switching the Mako armor off, the visuals are still locked, and my science officer did not have a head. I have no idea why. Oddly, enabling body armor on her did not trigger the locked viewpoint bug. Switching back to Yusrul will re-enable the Mako armor. Hey, guess what? It suddenly works again. So I haven't got a clue if anyone else has seen that. It could just be a first time thing. It could very well be a first opening, first load of the game, first whatever. Alright. Renamed Starship, for some reason, despite it being noted before, I can't remove the prefixes from the registries there, which is annoying for a shuttlecraft, since they're not technically on their own registry, but hey, that's the Trek nerd in me speaking. Right, warp cores, ladies and gentlemen. This is the new ship item. This is a test warp core, and it simply allows you to manage warp factor 10. The warp core is a new thing. It controls, amongst other things, your maximum warp speed on the sector maps. So, oh, go away, Tanae. So, you can have a constitution, for example, that has a top-of-the-line core that can make warp 10. It's still only got 2 weapons fore and aft, and the hull's still junk, so hey, why would you bother? But I'll admit now that despite constantly moaning about Cryptic's prices, I would happily pay for a Tier 5 Constitution TMP version. I'm just saying. Right. Enhanced warp cores. Green ones come with a bonus that adds +5 power to a given subsystem. So overcharged cores will give you +5 to auxiliary. You also get a bonus, depending on what type of core you're going for, to driver coils, EPS grids, warp core efficiency, or starship engine performance. You'll see it as the first bonus. The second bonus, if you have a blue core or better, is always going to be a power bonus based on the power level in one system and transferred to a second. So in this case, shields to weapons. You can also get bonuses to batteries, depending on the core. Hyper-injection cores give you +5 to your engine power. Overcharged cores give you +5 to auxiliary. Field stabilizers give +5 to shields. It's worth noting that there does not, at the moment, appear to be a core that gives bonus power to weapons. Escort captains, I imagine if you yell loudly enough you might get one, but between you and me I privately hope you don't. I'm biased, what can I say? Anyhow, these are the cores that are usable by Federation starships, and I believe Klingons as well. They cannot be used on warbirds. The Romulans use their own power systems. We'll come to those in a minute. As you can see, the power bonus doesn't change based on your mark because, hey, why would it? You're juggling the same numbers on the power systems, but the maximum warp speed increases to warp 10 at Mark 10, and it's, I believe, 5.6 at Mark 2, scales up in between as you would imagine. Why have Cryptic done this? Well, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. The old system, where your warp speed was intrinsic to your level, was okay. It was a bit of an abstraction, but it worked, and it did allow you to figure out maximum speed without having to worry too much about leveling. You just upped your driver coil skill if you wanted to go faster. This, I suppose, does allow you to keep, say, a Tier 2 ship on the go long after it would have been obsolete, but meh. Aside from looks, hey, why would you? Right, the Romulan Singularity cores, miniature black holes, ladies and gentlemen. These work very differently. Just get rid of chat for a sec. These work very differently to the Federation and Klingon cores. As you can see, it is not a fixed power bonus. It scales up to 7.5 based on your charge level. Standard core is fixed at +5. Warp factors are the same, but there's a curious little line here. It decreases the rate at which you lose singularity power by 20%. Singularity power? Curious. There's also this one. Reduces the cooltime on singularity power use by 10%. And increases charge rate by 20%. So, random speculation, ladies and gentlemen. Romulan warbirds are going to be able to do something very interesting with their power cores. We can guess from this core that your singularity charge level will probably increase over time, and the power bonus with it, and you will have a series of powers available to you that you can use, effectively turning that built-up charge into something fancy, or you can just hang on to the power bonus, depending on what you want to do. Now, what could these powers be? Well, there are some odd little bonuses on the higher level cores. So let's take a look at those. Improved plasma shockwave implies that there is a plasma shockwave power. So disable one system for 10 seconds. One system for 5 seconds on the target. Now, plasma shockwave. Well, obviously we've always had photonic shockwave. Is this going to be a single target option, or maybe even a point-blank AoE that we can use? As I say, this is all total speculation. I remind you of this again. Let's see, what else do we have? Shad. Warp Shadow Sensor Scramble. Okay. Will confuse all high-yield torpedoes in a 5-kilometer radius. Oh, wow, that could be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that we have got burst firing torpedoes at the moment. The Omega torpedo and the Romulan Reputation torpedo launcher fire burst torpedoes. Hit this when you've got a salvo of those closing in on you. Watch and laugh as they take each other out. Or better yet, just turn your opponent's high-yield tricobalt around and use on them. Singularity Overcharge. Increased 20% severity. Overcharge. Emergency power to everything, perchance? We will doubtless see in the coming weeks. And of course, what's this last one? Res. What does this do? Singularity Shielding provides you with 20 resistance to all damage. Well, that implies that you're going to be diverting it into your, well, shields, basically. So, enhanced shields and decreased bleed through, improved shield strength, improved resistance, with bonus resistance on top from the core. That can make for a very interesting tanky vessel, particularly on heavier ships like the Doderidex or the Scimitar. We know the Doderidex from the dev blogs is going to be a heavy and unmanoeuvrable ship. There is, I believe, an even heavier one, but the name escapes me for the moment. And, well, we haven't seen the Scimitar yet, but Singularity Jump increases the effect of your Singularity debuffs. Singularity Jump's accuracy debuff by 100%. Now, whether that means it's a 100% accuracy debuff, so they just can't hit you, or whether it just means it doubles the effect, we shall see. You could read that either way. Singularity Jump. Could we be seeing starships teleporting, or maybe just a boost to speed? Who knows? As I said, this is all total speculation. The devs are giving us tidbits. I suspect some of this is by accident. But, oh wow, we can speculate. And I fully encourage you to. Over on the purchasing side, this is Tribble. We're still getting the occasional bit of lag. It's a minor issue. We've had some old bugs come back. Not in this video, fortunately, but the starships roaming around on away missions bug, which I haven't seen since the original beta, did make something of a comeback. Other than that, this is all standard stuff. The only thing to be added were odd mark white warp cores for energy credits, basically just to give you a few extra options if you somehow manage to dump your warp core in the middle of nowhere. Actually, that's something I'm going to have to test. Does that really leave you stranded in space? We shall see in a future time warp. Right, there is only one thing left to cover, and happily it is very, very good news. Rejoice, ladies and gentlemen, for on the PvE queue, you can finally see how many players are queued for a mission, how many are playing it, and an estimated wait time. Hallelujah! I've only been waiting for this feature since they brought the queues in the first place. This is so long overdue. Why they took it out with the first version of this particular enhanced queue, I do not know. You used to be able to see it. Now you can see it again. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. God knows I rage on Cryptic enough times, but for once I am going to praise them. Please, please let this work. Please let this be in. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Tribble Time Warp, and I'll see you next time.